Namaste. I have been on this journey to explore and understand our Upanishads since last 15 years. It's been a beautiful journey of trying to understand the mysteries, the knowledge, the wisdom of our vast universe. Today, let's go through this journey of Key Upanishads together. Let's explore the teachings of the 13 Upanishads. Upanishads, which are referred as the philosophical backbone of Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism. What are Upanishads? They are a collection of ancient Indian texts which date back to thousands of years. And it's rooted in the Vedanta tradition. These scriptures are revered for their profound philosophical insights and spiritual wisdom. Now, what does the word Upanishad mean? It means sitting close to a teacher, meaning gaining the knowledge through Guru. It indicates the origin that the teachings have been passed down orally from the master to his disciples. In Upanishads, seekers explore fundamental questions. Now, what are these fundamental questions? These questions are about the nature of our reality, about our self, the real self, which is within us, and the ultimate purpose of our existence, the existence of our soul. And Upanishads delve into profound metaphysical concepts. What are those concepts? The biggest concept is the ultimate reality. To explore the nature of the ultimate reality that Upanishads call as Brahman. Now, this is not the word Brahmin, this is Brahman, B-R-A-H-M-A-N. That's what Upanishads call the God as Brahman, the Par Brahm, the ultimate supreme power of the universe. The Upanishads offer various paths to spiritual realization, and for every seeker, it is important, it is a necessity to go through Upanishads, to study Upanishads, because it is only through Upanishads we are able to self-inquire. Traditionally, there are said to be more than 108 Upanishads, though this number can differ based on different sources and classifications. And the reason for that is simple, that India has been invaded multiple times in the last 1000 years. Some of these Upanishads got lost in invasion by the Mughals, some by Britishers. Ancient texts are still lying in the British Library of London. Out of those which we have, around 10 to 13 Upanishads are considered prominent and widely studied. Now, which are those Upanishads? These are Katha Upanishad, Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Prashna, Manduka, Chandogya, Taittiriya, Brihadaranyaka. So these are some of the key Upanishads. Upanishads form the core texts of Vedanta philosophy because Upanishads are the summary of the 4 Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Sam Veda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. So the end of Vedas, which is Vedanta, and that's what forms the Upanishads. Despite the diversity in theme, style and philosophical approaches, all the Upanishads, all the 13 Upanishads, they share common teachings. And what is that one common teaching which you will find across all the Upanishads? That is, each one of them explore the nature of reality, the nature of our existence, the nature of the supreme consciousness. And Upanishads call supreme consciousness as Brahman. Now this Brahman, this word Brahman, which explains the nature of our reality, This is Brahman, the Paramatma, the Par Brahm. So Upanishads also explain the relationship between our individual self, that is our Atman, and Paramatma, that is Brahman. So what's the relationship between the two? Upanishads explain that beautifully. They emphasize on the importance of self-realization, enlightenment, and the pursuit of knowledge, which is Gyan. So Gyan Yoga is basically the journey through these Upanishads. And also they advocate for ethical conduct, meditation, devotion as paths to spiritual liberation, what you call as freedom, moksha, mukti. The Upanishads are timeless sources of wisdom, guiding seekers on the journey to understanding the deeper truths of existence and the nature of the self. See, the reality is this, that we are so used to this physical existence, our material existence, that we think that this is our reality. But in reality, this is illusion. The reality is beyond this physical self. The first Upanishad is Isha Upanishad. And what does it teach? It teaches us that everything in the world belongs to the divine. So we should develop this habit of sharing and not be too greedy. And this is a very beautiful teaching of humanity to the world. Isvasya midam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Everything in the world is pervaded by the divine. Enjoy the fruits of your labor, but do not be greedy, for nothing truly belongs to you. And this is the core teaching of Isha Upanishad. The Isha Upanishad is the opening chapter of the Shukla Yajurveda. It consists of 18 shlokas that focus on the concept of divinity in everything. So Isha says, as per Isha Upanishad, divine exists in each one of its creation. The Upanishad begins with the idea that everything in the universe is permeated by the divine essence, and it emphasizes that there is interconnectedness of all existence, and that is what is humanity. The entire humanity is connected. This particular shlok encourages each one of us to engage in the world, work hard, and enjoy the fruits of our labor, but not be attached with the outcome of that labor. It also advises us that we should not develop excessive greed and possessiveness, because nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to the universe. And the essence of this lies in recognizing the transient nature of material possessions and understanding that everything belongs to the divine cosmic order. And once you realize this, that possessive nature which is there in human being, that starts to lose its grip on us. The teachings of Isha Upanishad inspire a balanced approach to life. Not just Isha Upanishad, but Upanishads in general, promoting the idea of selfless action and detachment from the outcomes. Perform your action, but not be attached to the outcomes. And by acknowledging the divine presence in all aspects of life, we are encouraged to live with gratitude, humility, and a sense of interconnectedness with the universe. The entire humanity is interconnected. Isha Upanishad encourages that when we recognize the divinity in everything around us, be it in nature, be it animals, be it in fellow human beings, we cultivate a harmonious and balanced way of living. And that emphasizes the importance of selfless actions and a mindset which is free from excessive attachment and greed. This is the core teaching of Isha Upanishad. And in fact, this teaching can also be related to the core teaching of Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita also teaches the same, that perform your action but do not be attached to the outcome. Kena Upanishad. There is a special power inside us, and that power makes everything happen beyond what we can see and understand. That invisible power. Kena Upanishad tells us that even though we can see, hear and talk, but there's something special inside us that makes it all happen. I mean, do we really think that how we take birth, that is our real reality? Do we think that this physical self our real reality? No. Our real reality is inside us. And that reality, that supreme power which is inside us, that is behind all the action that we perform. It's like that power which is behind our action. Whatever is seen or heard is the manifestation of the unmanifest. Realize that which is beyond perception. Kena Upanishad is a philosophical text, and it goes deep into the nature of reality and the ultimate source of existence. Not just Kena Upanishad, you will find this repetitively coming, that every Upanishad talks about the nature of reality in a different way. But the core purpose of each and every Upanishad is to delve deeper into the nature of reality, the ultimate source of our existence. This Upanishad consists of 4 chapters. So there are 4 chapters in Kena Upanishad which focuses on the concept of Brahman, which is the supreme reality. Yes, Upanishads address the supreme reality, the God, as Brahman, the Par-Brahm, and the pursuit of knowledge. Because you need knowledge, you need wisdom to understand the supreme reality. Kena Upanishad emphasizes that the world we perceive through our 5 senses, the world that we see through our 5 senses, is not the actual world. It's just a manifestation of that unmanifest. Or we can say the unseen essence. And this Upanishad encourages us to go beyond the realm of our sensory perception and realize the ultimate truth that transcends ordinary understanding. So the teachings of Kena Upanishad inspire us to seek knowledge that goes beyond superficial appearances and materialistic pursuits. It highlights the importance of introspection, contemplation, and realization of the deeper truths of our existence. So there are deeper truths which are beyond our physical self, which are beyond our body, mind, senses, and intelligence. So body, our physical body, is at the lowest level. After that comes the 5 senses, then the mind, then the intelligence, which we call as buddhi, and then comes the soul and the supreme soul. And that's what Upanishads teach. In a sense, Kena Upanishad teaches that true knowledge lies in transcending the limitations of the senses, our 5 senses, and realizing the unmanifest reality that underlies the visible world. Because the reality is beyond the visible world. The reality is not what is visible by our two eyes. Reality is what is visible by the third eye, the eye of the wisdom, the eye of our true wisdom. And by recognizing the transient nature of our true reality and seeking the eternal truth which is within us, we can attain spiritual enlightenment and liberation. Liberation meaning freedom, moksha, from the cycle of birth and death. That's the ultimate teaching of Kena Upanishad. Katha Upanishad. Our soul is eternal. Our soul is like a traveler on a long journey. We are on this long journey which never ends because our soul never dies. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dehti pavaka, na chainam kaledyanthyapo, na shoshyati maruta. This shlok of Katha Upanishad says, our soul cannot be pierced by weapons, burnt by fire, or withered by the wind. Katha Upanishad is a profound philosophical dialogue between a young seeker, Nachiket, and the deity of death, Yamraj. This Upanishad has 2 chapters and each containing 3 sections. So each chapter has 3 sections. And this particular Upanishad explores fundamental questions about life, death, and the nature of the self. And self is our soul. The Katha Upanishad illustrates the immortal nature of our soul, that is Atman. This particular shlok emphasizes the essence of the self, that is soul, cannot be harmed or affected by external forces. So our soul can't be harmed by weapons, fire, water, or wind. And this particular teaching highlights the eternal nature of our soul, which transcends the physical body and the worldly phenomena. The teachings of Katha Upanishad inspire us to realize the true nature of the self and attain spiritual liberation. It encourages introspection, self-inquiry, and detachment from worldly attachments in pursuit of eternal truth and inner peace. It teaches that the soul is immortal and beyond the grasp of any external forces. It emphasizes the importance of self-realization and spiritual enlightenment. And through the journey of self-discovery and understanding, we can overcome our fear of unknown, our fear of death, and attain liberation, that is moksha, from the cycle of birth and death. Prashna Upanishad. Knowledge is like a tree and its roots are deep within. Knowledge is not just external, the real knowledge is within us. Vidya dadhati vinyam. Knowledge bestows humility. That's what people who are full of wisdom will always be full of humility. You will not find any sign of arrogance in them. And that's what the teaching of Prashna Upanishad. Prashna Upanishad, which is part of Atharva Ved, it has 6 questions posed by 6 different seekers to Rishi Piplad. And each question delves into profound nature of life, spirituality, and the nature of reality. Reality as in the supreme reality. Prashna Upanishad says that the true wisdom brings about a sense of humility and modesty in us. So people who are full of wisdom will always be humble because they approach life with openness, with respect for others, because they understand the interconnectedness of humanity. And this particular Upanishad inspires us that we should shred our ego pride and go on a self-discovery. This highlights the importance of humility as an essential virtue on the path of spiritual growth and enlightenment. Prashna Upanishad teaches that genuine knowledge leads to humility, and it fosters a sense of reverence for the vastness and complexity of the universe, because our universe is very complex. And by cultivating humility, we can overcome arrogance and ignorance, and we can come and see the light, because we are living in darkness, and until and unless we become humble, we embrace humility, we can never get the wisdom. So by doing this, we pave the way for deeper insights and spiritual realization, because we can never get to the stage of spiritual realization until and unless we shred that ego, the pride that is covering all the hidden treasures within us. Mundaka Upanishad. There are two types of knowledge in the universe: the higher knowledge and the lower knowledge. And pursuing the higher knowledge to understand the essence of life is the key teaching of this particular Upanishad. Tadev Brahma Tvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. To know that alone as Brahman and not that which people worship here. That's the key teaching and elaboration of Mundaka Upanishad. Again, Mundaka Upanishad is part of Atharva Ved, and it has 3 chapters. 3 chapters are in which the core teachings of Mundaka Upanishad are there, and each chapter has 2 different sections. And this particular Upanishad, it explores the nature of the Brahman. As I said in my previous explanation of Upanishads, that each Upanishad explores the nature of the Brahman in its own way. But a common theme amongst all the Upanishads is to explore the nature of our reality. So this Upanishad takes us on the path to spiritual liberation. And this particular shloka, which I just said from Mundaka Upanishad, it stresses the importance of how to recognize the Brahman as the ultimate reality, that Brahman which is beyond all forms and manifestations. And it encourages us to transcend the limitations of worshipping external objects and realize the divine essence within us. Just to explain this further, it means when you worship Brahman, when you worship God in temple, that is fine, but you won't realize him until and unless you worship Brahman, you worship God within you. Once you realize the God within you, you will find him everywhere. But until and unless you realize him within you, you won't find him in any of the places of worship. You won't find him in the temple. So before you go to a temple to look for God, first realize him within you. And the teachings of this particular Upanishad inspire us to seek knowledge of Brahman as the true source of enlightenment and liberation. So the real purpose of gaining enlightenment is, gaining liberation is by seeking the knowledge of Brahman. It also emphasizes the path of self-realization and the importance of understanding between the transient and eternal. Transient is our physical body and eternal is our soul. So in a sense, Mundaka Upanishad teaches the true knowledge that lies in realizing Brahman as the ultimate reality beyond all dualities and all forms. All dualities and all forms of God. Yes, while we worship God in different forms in Hinduism, but Upanishad says that the God, the supreme reality, lies beyond all these forms. And to understand the essence of Brahman, we are encouraged to attain spiritual liberation and transcend the cycle of birth and death. Mandukya Upanishad. The essence of the universe is represented by the sound Om. Om, that is the primordial sound of the universe. Omkar Evedam Sarvam. Om is all prevalent. Om is all that is. And that's the key teaching of Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad, one of my personal favorite Upanishads. It's one of the shortest Upanishads and it has just 12 shlokas. However, it is highly revered for its profound teaching on the significance of this sacred sound, Om, and the nature of reality. So, as per this Upanishad, the nature of reality and the nature of Om, they are both related. This shlok on Om from Mandukya Upanishad, it captures the essence of the Upanishad by stating that the entire universe is encompassed within the sound of Om. Om, that is the primordial sound of the universe. And Om, that is a syllable, represents the ultimate reality. So Mandukya says Om is the ultimate reality. Om is supreme. This particular sound contains the nature of the Brahman, which is both transcendent and eternal. And the teachings of Mandukya Upanishad, they all revolve around the symbolism and significance of Om as primordial sound that underlies creation. So if you are looking at understanding the primordial sound of the universe, the Om, Mandukya Upanishad is a must exploration for you, because this Upanishad explores the 3 states of consciousness. What are those states? Waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Upanishad calls it as your Jagrat Sthiti, your Swapna Sthiti, and Sushupti, which is your deep sleep, and the 4th state, which is Turiya, and that is the state which transcends them all, transcends all the 3 states and represents the state of pure consciousness. So in a sense, Mandukya Upanishad teaches that by meditating on the sound of Om and understanding its profound symbolism, one can realize the truth of existence and attain spiritual enlightenment. That's why you must have seen that most gurus and most scriptures and even the yogic philosophy, it emphasizes on meditating on Om, because Om is the sound, Om is the nature of the universe, Om is the nature of God, Om is the nature of Shiva. And Mandukya emphasizes that by introspecting, by meditating, and by self-realizing on the path to realize the oneness of Brahman. This is the core teaching of Mandukya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad. Knowledge is of 2 kinds, the lower knowledge and the higher knowledge. And once we pursue the higher knowledge to understand the ultimate truth, there is no bigger knowledge than that. And that's the key teaching of Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam Vad. speak the truth. That's the message of Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad, it's a part of Krishna Yajurveda, and it has 3 chapters. And each chapter in this particular Upanishad, it's called as Valli. And this particular Upanishad, it presents various philosophical teachings. Again, the core teaching is the nature of Brahman, the ultimate reality, and the importance of self-discipline in the pursuit of knowledge. Because if you want knowledge of the universe, first you need to discipline yourself. Satyam Vad, this shlok from Taittiriya Upanishad, it emphasizes the significance of truthfulness in our speech and our action. So whatever we speak and whatever we do, it has to be truthful, and that's the message of Taittiriya Upanishad. And it encourages us to uphold truthfulness as a fundamental ethical principle in our daily life, in our interactions with others, and in pursuit of spiritual growth. Because if there is no truthfulness in us, if there is no truthfulness in our action, in our speech, then neither we can succeed in our material life nor in our spiritual growth. And the teachings of Taittiriya Upanishad, they go beyond mere verbal honesty, and it extends to living a life of integrity and righteousness. So the importance of aligning our thoughts, words and deeds with truthfulness is what this Upanishad teaches us, because that's what leads to a meaningful and virtuous life. In a sense, Taittiriya Upanishad teaches us that truthfulness is the foundation of righteousness. If you want to be righteous, first you need to be truthful. And in order to progress on your spiritual path, the first step is truthfulness, which is also one of the yamas of yogic philosophy. And by speaking and living in accordance with truth, we can cultivate inner harmony, we can gain the trust of others, and we can attain spiritual enlightenment. That's Taittiriya Upanishad's core teaching. Taittiriya Upanishad, everything in the universe is made of the same essence. Prajnanam Brahma. And this particular shlok from Taittiriya, it says that consciousness, that is our awareness, can be identified with Brahman, the ultimate reality. So consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness is God. This particular teaching of Taittiriya Upanishad, it actually reflects into the inherent unity of our individual consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. And that is what the message of all the Upanishads. And the teaching of Taittiriya Upanishad, it explored the profound concept of Brahman as the underlying principle of existence, which pervades all aspects of our creation. It also emphasizes the realization of the self, that is Atman, which is identical with the Brahman. So that means that there is no difference between our individual self and the Supreme Self, Atman, which is part of the Paramatma. And this particular realization leads to spiritual liberation, which is moksha. So in a sense, we can say that Taittiriya teaches that consciousness is not just a product of the material world, but is the very essence of the cosmic world, is the essence of Brahman, which is the supreme reality. And in order to reach to this realization, self-inquiry is very important, because only through self-inquiry we can become self-realized, we can become spiritually enlightened. Only then we can transcend the limitations of our ego and attain unity with our ultimate truth, which is Brahman, which is Supreme God. Chandogya Upanishad, the essence of the universe is beyond what our senses perceive. What we see through our five senses is not our reality. That's the message of Chandogya Upanishad. Tat Tvam Asi. And this is a very famous shloka from Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad, which is part of the Sam Ved, and it has 8 chapters. And each chapter we call as Prapathak. And each one of them contains philosophical dialogues and teachings between sages and their disciples. And they explore various aspects of reality, self-knowledge, and different spiritual practices. And this shloka, Tat Tvam Asi, it beautifully encapsulates one of the most profound teachings of Advaita Vedanta. And Tat Tvam Asi is actually part of the Mahavakya. There are Mahavakyas in our scriptures, and Tat Tvam Asi is one of them. And what does it say? It declares the identity of the individual self, which is Atman, with the ultimate reality, which is Brahman. So basically it says that we are not different from the supreme reality. Tat Tvam Asi, meaning we are that. You are that, meaning you are Brahman. Your soul is part of the Supreme Soul. It emphasizes the inherent unity and oneness of all existence. And the teachings of Chandogya Upanishad highlight the importance of self-realization and recognition of our true nature, the true nature of our self, our soul, as identical, similar to the nature of the Brahman. So that's what, if you see, most profound enlightened gurus, their teachings have been one, that you are made in the image of God. You are God, because what God has, similar powers and similar nature, He has given to us as well. It's just that due to the veils of ignorance, we have forgotten our real self. And that's what this Upanishad teaches us, to go into self-inquiry so that you can realize that you are part of the Brahman. You are no different from Brahman. It invites seekers to go beyond the superficial layers of the identity and perception to discover the eternal truth within themselves. So in a sense, Chandogya Upanishad teaches that the essence of the individual self is not separate from the universal consciousness, that is Brahman. By realizing the profound truth, or Tat Tvam Asi, we can transcend our illusion, the illusion of separateness, and we can experience the ultimate unity and wholeness of our existence, the unity with the Brahman, the unity with the ultimate reality, and that is God. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the essence of the universe is the ultimate reality, and everything in the universe is connected, interconnected. Aham Brahmasmi. This profound shlok is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and this is one of the most voluminous and oldest Upanishads, which belongs to the Yajurveda. Yes, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is very voluminous. It has 6 chapters, and each chapter has profound philosophical discussion and dialogue between sages and their disciples. And once again, it explores various aspects of the nature of reality, different spiritual practices, self-knowledge and Atman. And this particular shlok from Bradanayak is another Mahavakya like Tatvatvam Asi. Aham Brahmasmi declares the identity of the Atman, which is the individual self, with the ultimate reality, which is the Brahman. Once again, it emphasizes the realization of the true nature of the self, which is our Atman, being similar, being same to the Supreme Consciousness. So it says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. And that's the underlying reality of the universe, that we are not different from our Creator. And this emphasizes the importance of contemplation, realization and self-realization, of unity of our Atma with the Brahman, which ultimately leads to our spiritual liberation, which is moksha. In a sense, Bradanayak Upanishad, it teaches that the individual self, that is our Atma, is not separate from the Brahman, which is the ultimate reality. And that's the core message of not just Bradanayak, but all the Upanishads. And by recognizing this profound truth of Aham Brahmasmi, we can transcend the limitations of our ego and realize the inherent divinity, and we can experience the oneness with the Supreme Consciousness. But before we experience the oneness with the Supreme Consciousness, we have to feel the interconnectedness of the world, interconnected of the humanity, which means what is there in us is also there in each one of Creator's creation. Svetaswatra Upanishad. The beauty of this Upanishad is, this particular Upanishad is primarily focused on Lord Shiva. What does Svetaswatra Upanishad says? It says the divine is within all living beings. So whosoever is living has divine within them. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasyete kathi hartha prakashante mahatmana. What does it mean? It means one who has great devotion to God, to the Guru, and to such a person, the meanings of the scriptures become revealed. If you want to understand scriptures, before going deep into the scriptures, you must take the blessings of the God. The Svetaswatra Upanishad is a very significant text in Hindu philosophy, and it belongs to Krishna Yajurved. It has 113 shlokas, and they are named after the sage Svetaswatra, to whom the knowledge was revealed. The knowledge of this particular Upanishad was revealed to the revered sage. And this Upanishad delves into the nature of reality, the divine, and the path to spiritual liberation. It presents once again the profound philosophical insights and teachings on the nature of Brahman, the ultimate reality, the individual self, that is the Atman, and the relationship between the two. So if you see the pattern, we have gone through various Upanishads so far, and each one of them revolves around the nature of Brahman, the individual self, and the relationship between the two. That's our soul and Supreme Soul. This Upanishad reflects on the omnipresence and omnipotence of the Divine, who dwells within each one of us, within every being, and is responsible for the cycle of our existence. In fact, the Divine orchestrates the very existence of this universe. And the teachings of this particular Upanishad, they emphasize the importance of devotion, that is bhakti, knowledge, that is gyan, meditation, that is samadhi, in attaining the spiritual realization. It also talks about the concept of Ishwar, that is God, as the source and sustainer of the universe, the one who guides seekers on the path of realizing their divine nature. Because Atman and Brahman both are interconnected. In order to understand your Paramatma, first you have to understand your own self, that is your Atman. Because Atman and Brahman are not separate. The core teachings of all the Upanishads is the route to Brahman, the route to Paramatma goes via Atman. And overall, this particular Upanishad, it offers profound insights into the nature of reality and how we can transcend the cycle of our birth and death. And it also guides us on the journey to self-realization and ultimate liberation, because that is the essence of all Upanishads, taking seekers to the journey to liberation, because that's the ultimate goal of human life. Maitri Upanishad, a very beautiful and profound teaching of this Upanishad is love and compassion lead to true happiness. So in order to attain true happiness, you need to cultivate a feeling of compassion and love within you. Maitrini charuni bhutva santushta sadatmavan. That's the message of this Upanishad. And what does it mean? It means that by being friendly and compassionate, by cultivating the feeling of love within us, by being always contented, one who is a true yogi gets freedom from all his sins. Maitri Upanishad is part of the Yajurveda, and it has 6 chapters, and each chapter presents philosophical teachings on the nature of the self, the nature of reality, which is Brahman, and the path to Brahman, that's the path to spiritual realization, and the importance of virtues like compassion, love and contentment. Maitri Upanishad, as the name suggests, Maitri, which is friendliness, it emphasizes on contentment and inner peace as essential qualities for our growth and liberation. So that means for our growth as an individual and to attain moksha, which is freedom, we need to cultivate contentment and compassion within us. And this teaching inspires us to have the qualities of kindness, empathy and satisfaction in all our interactions with others, and that should become our approach to life. It highlights the transformative power of these virtues in purifying our mind and freeing us from the bondage of suffering and sin. So in a sense, Maitri Upanishad teaches us that by cultivating these virtues within us, that is friendliness, compassion, contentment, we can attain liberation and we can transcend the cycle of karma, which is we can come out of the bondage of karma and suffering. Maitri lays the importance of leading one's life guided by principles of love, kindness and inner harmony. That's the message of Maitri. Mandala Brahman Upanishad. The universe is a manifestation of the divine, and understanding this connection brings inner peace. So once we understand that we are part of the divine, that gives us inner peace. And that's the message of this Upanishad. Ahmev Vatmasmi. I am indeed the vital force. I am the prana. And this is the core message of Mandala Brahman Upanishad. It's a lesser known text which is found in the Atharva Veda. It is an ancient Upanishad, but it's not very widely studied. I mean, as compared to Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, it's not that widely studied or popular Upanishad. However, during my exploration, I found that it holds significance in the Vedic tradition. This Upanishad focuses on spiritual teachings and philosophical insights quite similar to other Upanishads. The Mandala Brahman Upanishad, it explores concepts related to nature of the self, that is Atman, the ultimate reality, that is Brahman, and the methods for attaining spiritual realization, enlightenment. It also contains discussions on the interconnectedness of all the existence and our role in the universe. Like other Upanishads, this Upanishad also emphasizes on the importance of self-inquiry, living a life of self-awareness, introspection, and the realizing of divine within oneself. Upanishads are very deep philosophical studies. They are part of Vedas. They are the summary of Vedas. And in fact, the entire Hindu philosophy, the core of Hindu philosophy is in Upanishads. Because Upanishads not just talk about the universe, but also the role of an individual soul in the universe. So what is our role? What is our life's purpose? We can understand by exploring Upanishads. The journey to exploring Upanishads is a very deep journey. It takes you from your Atman to Paramatma, and it's a journey which is worth undertaking. I hope I was able to give you a brief understanding of the key Upanishads, but yes, to study Upanishads, one needs to have patience, one needs to have time, and one needs to have devotion. Then only you can understand these profound texts which form the core of Sanatan Dharma. Namaste. Om Namah Shivaya.